One. Gentlemen, ladies, welcome back to the DadBUB podcast. We're here with Sel Berdie, serial entrepreneur and a good friend of mine over the years. So, Sel, I'll give a bit of an intro into the many, many hats that you wear. So, founder of or co-founder of Hype Group, co-founder of Coco Whip, co-founder of Sprout Organic, co-founder of Combat Nutrition. Man, is there anything, Biscuit Whole Foods, co-founder of? Dude, is there anything that I've missed? I'll just say serial entrepreneur, Sel Berdie. Welcome to the DadBUB podcast.
Thanks for having us, man. Thanks for you boys getting up early too. It's earlier time over west, but yeah, appreciate you having us on.
It's only early for me. Brendo's over east at the moment, I'm pretty sure.
No, I'm not. I'm still here.
Oh, you're still here.
I go out. I'm getting out of the little hole that we've been living in. Sorry, I shouldn't say hole. Perth's a beautiful place. I'm getting out of that controlled state that we've been living in for the past 2 years to finally go see some family. But Sel, to give you a bit of a run through, because you've done many podcasts before, I know that we've done a podcast together and we've known each other for 7 years. So with DadBUB, Ken and I are both young dads and, became young dads at a similar time. And when we did, we were like, hey, this is completely new. We're entrepreneurs, we're into business, and obviously going into that journey of fatherhood, and especially for your first time, it can be quite new. And I can actually said I would love to learn from high performing people and business people how they went through the journey of fatherhood. And so we've just been finding out great information of of dads who have been successful in all arenas, and I think you are the epitome of that, and obviously wear many, many hats. So yeah, we will be less on business and more on fatherhood. But before we go into the dad life side of things, and I know I've already mentioned it, do you want to give us a bit of a run through so people know who you are, what you do, the businesses that you run?
Yeah, sweet. So as you mentioned, man, I generally look after a lot of food businesses. Have started up quite a few. I think health food businesses very much became my MO. Obviously, me and you met when we were both at Body Science back in the day, which is one of Australia's biggest and best sports nutrition brands. And then from there, I was fortunate enough to keep applying the trade within the health food industry. I think it only became natural to me that I found a lot of gaps that were missing within that space. And I'm probably fortunate the way my brain works is maybe a lot of problem solving. So when I see a gap, if I feel that it can be solved with a good product or service, particularly in the health industry, I often try to fill it. So that's where the journey probably started with Biscuit Cafe. And that was simply me thinking that there wasn't, call it a super cafe that was catered towards health individuals. There was a lot of places you could get health foods, but there wasn't one kind of mecca for us on the Gold Coast that catered for everything, be it health food, yoga, grab and go items, obviously good coffee, and all product and service that you could take away from the cafe to other parts of wherever you were in Australia or across the world. So we basically started Biscuit Cafe, and I started with some of the boys that I played footy with at the Titans. And then that model was really good, but I obviously realised that there's only so many people you can see at a cafe, and I wanted to get the product to as many hands as possible, which led to Biscuit Whole Foods, which I still have today, which is like a food service retail part of Biscuit that does granola, chocolate, brownies, all plant-based, all healthy. And then the ball just started snowballing from there. So similar thing happened, saw a gap in the ice cream market when no one was serving it well with a healthy option, but in soft serves. Lots of retail options now with Halo Tops and the likes of that, but wanted to do something different. So we did Coco Whip, which was really cool. Sold out of that maybe a few years back. And then the real pivotal kind of change happened when I had kids, as you guys would know, and you go about wanting to serve a lot of other people and yourself to really just wanting to be a dad and serve your kids as best as possible. And the first thing I think of when I think of my kids is I just want them to be healthy. And wanting them to be healthy led to Sprout, which was just an aspect of going. We had a great breastfeeding journey, me and my wife Jen, but there was a period, like most parents have, where there's this weird transition where you're breastfeeding, but they're starting to eat a bit of food, but they're restless, but they need a bottle before night, but they can wake up in the middle of the night, and you don't want your missus to have to breastfeed then because they're tired, and all the juggles and everything like that. And so my simple thought was, well, this should be easy. I'll just get plant-based and organic formula, and then I can do feeding as well as my wife can do breastfeeding at times, and be a simple balance, but I'll ensure that they're not getting any of the junk that's in current formulas, be it fructose, glucose, emulsifier, E-number, whatever. And yeah, that came as a massive shock to me when I went to every pharmacy, health food store, supermarket, online, and just went, there's actually no formula, me personally, that I would feel comfortable giving my child, which seemed mental. And I was like, that just can't be the case. And then I thought, if I'm one parent, how many other millions, billions, don't know, type of parents could be in the same position? So that led that journey on from Sprout, which was from the time my son was basically 10 months. He's 7 now, and we launched infant formula 8 months ago. So yeah, that's where we're at now with Sprout and having a whole kids nutrition range.
Just with your son, so he's 7. So you said he's 7 now. You said that you started the journey with Sprout, back when he was an infant. I
Yeah.
didn't realize there was such a gap. And just to let people know, with that as well, we've tried Sprout. So we had a strange sort of breastfeeding journey too, where our baby was fully breastfed. She had a tongue tie, which then caused more issues, more stress for my wife. And we looked at different options. So we looked at Sprout. Obviously, we know each other, and it seemed like a really good option. But can you tell me about the journey of like your older son is now 7, and then developing this product? I know we're still talking about business a bit now, but I'm just like really interested. I didn't realize that was such a long journey.
Yeah, man. It's like anything. It was kind of a situation where I basically looked at it and said, what does the food code require you to do for a product? And when I found out that there was no option, and I said, this seems relatively straightforward in terms of you need X carbs, you need X protein, you need X fat, and you need a certain amount of vitamins and minerals. But you also need to ensure that there's no pathogens, micros, all the other types of stuff, heavy metals, gluten, all that type of stuff. So my natural thought process was just, well, I've developed a million proteins. How does this differ? And work backwards from there. And so I worked backwards from there, and I reached out to all my suppliers and said, look, I need a carbohydrate that does this, I need a protein that does this, I need a fat that does this, and I need these type of vitamins and minerals. So over that period of time, they sent me samples of everything. I used the samples to make like a bench top, made about 2 kilos worth, and then gave it to my son, and it went well. And I was like, well, this is perfect. So I did that for about 2 months, 2 to 3 months, and I was going a bit stir crazy every time, having to like mix and weigh and do all that type of stuff, because clearly what I had wasn't in a ready-made tin per se. All the directions, all that type of stuff. So it was just literally in a sealed container that I had. And so by the time he got to 15 months, he was like eating whole foods. He wasn't needing formula or anything. So I was like stoked about that. But then, like everything, life gets in the road, and I was like, I need to do Sprout, but at the same time, I still have Cocoa Whip, I still have Biscuit. I just started Hype. I brought into Hype with Miles at the time, so I was finding my feet in the marketing space as well. And I was like, I can't possibly start a new business at this stage. This is a great idea. I know I need to do it, but I just had to kind of keep tinkering on it in the background. And then when I started investigating how much it would cost me to get off the ground, I also went, I've got a new kid. I've just bought a house. I can't put my family at risk at this stage, but I've already done it so many times. And it's not a problem for me going all in on something when it's just me. But now that I had Ellis, it made me think twice about just going all in again. So I kept running what I was doing, kept thinking about it in the background, and then kept kind of formulating and tinkering and seeing where I could get to. But then I found out I was having my second son, Kingston, 3 years after Ellis. So there was probably like from the time of the last time I started with the development, about another 2 year gap till I found out Jen was pregnant with Kingston. And then I went, because I didn't plan on having a second child. And then he was like, when we found out we were having him, I was like, there's either a sign here, like I need to do this because I know I'm going to run into this problem once again, or I need to really completely forget about it. But I couldn't forget about it. Like it was just always this thing that kept drawing me to it. And that's when I said, look, I would rather go all in on this, knowing that it's the thing I'm most passionate about, being my kids, and I can see real change that needs to happen within this kids nutrition space. So I went, let me free off everything I possibly can. Let me sell the cafe, let me sell Coca Whip, let me downscale all the things I possibly can downscale to go all in on this business, and let me try and build a team that can help me get it to market. So that real point kind of happened there for about 2.5 years ago, odd.
That's pretty amazing, man. Can I just circle back to that? So how many businesses did you have on the go with your first kid?
It would have been 5.
So you had 5 businesses on the go. 5, there we go on the camera. 5 businesses on the go when you had your first kid. That to me sounds like stress overwhelm. So how did you manage that?
Man, I thought about it in just the aspect of trying to go almost like a dashboard and just going, how do I make the businesses relate to each other? So the thing that I thought was most important was basically being able to get a marketing hub that could at least control the messaging we got out to each business. So when I knew that the businesses were getting bigger and bigger and lots, I was like, well, the easiest thing to do would be to have a marketing agency that can control that messaging. So I had the 4 businesses, and then I went and bought into the marketing agency almost to tie all the businesses together. So that way I could have a marketing manager, a web developer, a social media manager, a graphic designer, all the things that all the businesses need, but I could put them under one and then kind of try and direct the ship from that time point. So that's when I bought into Hype with Miles, and then literally at the time I had Ellis, I bought into Hype and Miles and said to him, look, I have this vision of Hype being this marketing agency that controls our own brands but also helps other brands. If we do that, although it seems like a lot right now, it means we should be able to really bunker down and keep growing each one of them. So that's what the simplest way to do it was. So got an office in Burleigh, kept all the businesses very close. House in Burleigh, warehouse in Burleigh, offices in Burleigh, gym in Burleigh, manufacturing, like kept everything on one street effectively.
So good, because Burleigh Heads is one of my favourite places in the Gold Coast, and my wife and I are planning to move to the Gold Coast in the next 12 to 24 months.
Nice.
She wants a house. She wants a house in Burleigh Heads. So so I got to work towards that, man. So I'll be seeing you there all the time.
Yeah, nice, bro. That'd be sick. That'd be really cool. Yeah.
Just one thing that I wanted to touch on as well. So you mentioned something that really relates to me, and that's the risk. That's the going all in and the risk. And obviously we've known each other for years, and I've always been someone who, if I want something, I just go all in on it. And I've put myself at risk many times knowing that this is what I want to do and I want to chase it. Now, for me, after we had Evie, it was a very instinctual thing that kicked in. Like you, I had just sold the business at that point in time, and I was sitting back and I was trying to work out what to do next. And I said to Shell, I can't put us at risk like I could before, because there's more than us now, and there was a distinctive provider instinct that was inside of me. And so a lot of a lot of the feedback we've got from the podcast that we've been doing is trying to like decipher this, because I know there's going to be so many people that listen to this that they either want to start a business or there's something that they're chasing. So how did you mitigate your risk, or like even like emotionally or psychologically? How did you work your way through that?
Yeah, man, it's definitely without a doubt the hardest thing to manage, and it's like everything. You get older. I remember like when you were a kid, the stuff that you would do would just be second nature. You would jump off a two-story building without any fear because you don't know the consequence. You would do this, put your hand in a toaster, don't know the consequence. So yes, yes, live really fast and
Sounds like you had a pretty
realistically
crazy.
untouchable.
Sounds like you had a pretty dangerous upbringing, jumping off two-story buildings, putting your hands in
Yeah.
toasters.
Yeah, I definitely you almost feel invincible as you're younger, and then as you get older, like life's lesson, you lose things like that. That's just part of getting older, and so you realize that you aren't invincible, and things do go wrong, and you have seen a lot of shit go wrong at different times. So your appetite for risk becomes less and less. It's almost like there's like a twofold aspect to it. When I first had Ellis, I became really risk adverse, and then I saw him growing up, and then saw what it's like being a kid again when you don't know anything, and it reminds you also at the same time that effectively we're all kind of big kids in a way, that we're all still learning. You are going to make mistakes. My thing that I had when I was trying to balance out the risk was essentially whatever I did, would it, if I did something and went all in on that, what would the worst case scenario be? And I always put it back to the worst case scenario. Could I keep a roof above my family's head and keep them fed? Like, don't need the flashy house, don't need the big cars, don't need all jewelries or accessories, whatever people are into. My main thing is, could I keep them fed? Would they be loved? And would they have a roof above their head in some manner? I would just always go back to that break even, and if I knew that they would be, one way or another, even if it meant that I would just have to work 24/7 packing shelves outside of work hours or whatever it is, then I was fine with it. So that's kind of how I worked it back towards going, is it worth doing? Well, absolutely, if it meant that it's going to change lives for the better.
Pretty amazing, man. Because that's a pretty big separation from what I would consider most dads, right? Yeah, I know you went from the point of being risk averse, but also you did the calculation. It's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I'm actually doing this for a purpose, not just for my children, because you were making this formula for your children. You're creating these businesses so that you could, fund the life that you want for your children and all these amazing things for your family, which is just to me absolutely sensational. But you did the calculated risk. If this all went belly up, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to ensure that I can keep a roof over my head, feed my children, give them the life that they deserve. And I feel like Brendo, you might have a different opinion on this, but I feel like most dads don't think that way. Most dads are just like, I'm pretty happy being comfortable, just earning my stock standard salary per year and not going out and being hungry and trying to go out there and maybe change the world and do something better for their children. Like, what do you think about that, Brendo?
Yeah, so I think obviously everyone's going to be different. Not everyone's going to have be an entrepreneur. But when I look back at this, and I've had to ask myself, these questions as well, because I have always been that person that's chased it and trying to balance out this risk. And for me, it comes down to, I guess it's cliche, but you only live once. And recently, I had that realization with a family member, and when I reflected on that, I'm like, am I going to be happy when I get to the end of my life with the window that I've got if I didn't pursue those opportunities? And I think for me, at the moment, so how I'm approaching it is I'm like, okay, there's sacrifices I need to make. So there's a certain level of income that's going to keep our family comfortable. And like you said, Sel, not the flashy stuff. We live quite simple lives. I would say we're probably quite similar with that. Most of the clothes we wear are the stuff that we've always got
Yeah,
from promos and stuff. Like, we're not like out there people.
right.
And I'm like, okay, so for us to live like comfortably and where that rate of happiness per income kind of diminishes, we had a certain amount. So I'm like, for my wife to be taken care of, my baby to be taken care of, for me to be taken care of, that's that income. Now, as far as any other businesses outside of this, there's got to be a sacrifice where I've either have to work extra, so I got to have my family time, but then there's got to be periods where I need to work extra, which means I either lose a bit of sleep, or the date nights and the family time is scheduled at certain times where my phone's off and I'm just all in. And every day I always have about an hour and a half where that's the case as well. So yeah, that's the way that we've sort of approached this one too. Now, Sel, we spoke about five businesses going, and they're not five small businesses. Everything that you do, and one thing I always appreciate about you, and I don't know how you hit the nail on the head all the time, but everything that you do is of such a super, super high quality, and I really respect you for it. So we're not talking five small bit or five side hustle businesses. We're talking about five great businesses where you're working with some of the biggest businesses in the industry as well and creating some of the biggest brands. Um, how did you manage your time through this process whilst having that? The five businesses, I know that you fought in an MMA fight as well. You got two kids, and obviously it's a very stressful time for your wife. So, how did you balance out your time and be a great support person and a great dad?
Man, I think it's almost like that model where they talk about you're on a plane and they say you've got to obviously put your own mask on first before putting on your kid's mask and your loved one's mask. So I kind of always looked at it that if I don't look after myself first and foremost by getting in some exercise, getting in energy expenditure, some thought process and time, I will never be good for them because I'll always be struggling with my own stuff. So in a roundabout way, with the gym being set up, I kind of set up it's actually called the Dad Squad, which is there's a heap of dads that do it, but at like 4:30 a.m. we get down there and then we're able to get back home by 6 to be dads effectively. So I think what ended up happening was I just looked at it and just said, it's not the right health move completely, but I feel for me mentally was I'm going to give up sleep to be able to look after myself first, be it at 4:30 in the morning, and then hang out with other dads and then be able to go home and hopefully be a support mechanism for the family, kids and everything like that. I think a lot of people overlook the aspect of looking after themselves because they think I'm a dad now, so I obviously want to do the right thing, but then they end up letting themselves go. So they end up letting their health go, be it both physically, mentally, and emotionally. Then they're actually not really that present or feeling good about themselves within the whole family situation and balance within there. And often feel like I've felt guilty of it at times, being just like this person that comes and goes, and you almost feel like just like the ATM where they're just like, oh, we need some money to do this, and then they go do something, and then you're sitting there going, fuck, I've got to go back to work or whatever it is. So I think I just set some key rules for myself where I'm like, I will exercise 6 days a week of a morning, but at a time that won't impact the kids. I will at every day take one of the kids to school, be it daycare or be at school, so at least I get to see them and start my day with them, whichever way it may be. I'll always be home for dinner. If I have to go back to work, I have to go back to work, that's fine, but at least be home to see them before they go to bed, whatever mechanism that may be. And if work does take up a lot of time, but there's certain things that like I just made as non-negotiables to be there for, be it first like soccer day at soccer trainings and things that can never be replicated again. Like I know there's obviously going to be certain small things you miss, that's life, but there's certain things that you'll never get the opportunity to do again, be it a graduation from daycare or be it whatever it may be. It can be anything that they're like ones that I'm like, they're non-negotiables, must be there for, doesn't matter what it is. And then there's other things where I'm just like, well, they'll come along again if there's this thing that's really going to move our family forward in a great positive manner, that can provide wealth overall to both the family, friends, and everyone else. Then I'll weigh that up and say, okay, if I can't get to that, that's also alright. But yeah, that's kind of how I generally think of things.
That's pretty cool because, look, Brenda and I have a dream list of individuals that we want to get on this podcast. And one of those individuals for me is Jordan Peterson. And he talks a
Yes.
lot about, yeah, he's awesome, right? So, Jordan Peterson, if you're listening to this episode, we want you on. So, just reach out to us, hello@dadbub.com, and we'll get you on the podcast ASAP. Now, that's our little promo still. But I love what Jordan Peterson said. He talks about like kids are only kids from like ages of 0 to 5. And if you
Yeah.
miss that time in their development, it's never coming back. Yes, you can
Yeah.
have another kid, but that period of that child's life, you're never, ever going to get back. And there's
Yeah.
so many firsts in that period of 0 to 5. Like,
Yeah.
5 to 20, okay, they're walking now, they're talking now, they're running now, they're doing all the normal based stuff children do, and we've seen that time and time again. But that beautiful experience of actually seeing them perceive the world is 0 to 4, 0 to 5. And if you miss that, you don't get that opportunity again. And I think it's such a beautiful period. I know Brenda and I just seeing these milestones from 0 months to 9 months for me has just been absolutely mind blowing. Like, what do you like? It. I'm sure Sel, you can relate with that. I know Brenda, you can definitely relate to that. Yeah, just crazy.
Yeah.
With going through the process as well, and I always say to people, I think, and again, everyone's experience is different, but for me, the most challenging part, and we've spoken about juggling work and time and taking care of yourself, and I definitely had a 4 month period where we built a new gym. I didn't train for 4 months. I was Uber Eats in almost every meal. I definitely got in the worst shape of my adult life, and it was that realization of, hey, you've got to take care of yourself. And then that's where the sacrifice came in, where the non-negotiables, okay, I have to train, I have to eat good, and then really turn things around physically and mentally and really helped impact. But I think getting control of that, and I say the baby is the fun part, but your partner goes through a lot, and being the supporter is often the difficult part, because you don't switch off, and it's not because they're difficult, it's because you want to be a good support person, and there's obviously a lot of other responsibilities. So from your experience, how did you handle that? Well, what was your experience? And then how did you handle just being that great support person?
Yeah, man. I'll be the first to admit, I reckon that's probably the thing that I find the hardest, as in it's not a natural, call it instinct. For me, like, you become a dad and you naturally become this massive protector, and then you think, I've got two boys, so you want them to grow up strong, also vulnerable, but being able to stand on their own 2 feet. And it's one of those things where, like you said, man, it's your partner goes through a lot, but often you don't get to see it because it's a thing where often you may be at work and they're with the child, and the child may have given them grief for the whole time period, but then you get home, they're tired, they go to sleep, then you wake up, then you do your thing with the kid, then you may shoot off. So there can almost be this like ships in the night type of situation where you don't even realize how tough they're doing it. And emotionally, the first time I probably wasn't as attuned to it, because it's the first time you're going through everything, and it's like anything, once you do something once, you get better at the second time and the third time and so forth. So I definitely felt, even as a dad, I was better the second time around through those periods, because I learned a lot of the mistakes that I made in the first go. And in a similar manner, I think being emotional support the first time around, I was very much, due to the nature of who I am, very problem solving, like saying, well, you're not feeling good about yourself, go exercise, here's some good food to eat, go do this, go see your friends. Like, I would be the kind of person that would just be like, whatever you need, go and do, I'll look after the kids type of thing. Thinking I was, in my heart, I thought I was doing the right thing, like I was trying to create these solutions. rather than probably more so this next time around. I feel probably being a bit better of more just listening, um, just being the sounding board of I don't feel good because of X, Y, Z, and just hearing that, or I don't want to do this, this, and this, and just being okay with it and saying, cool, let's just watch TV or whatever it may be. I think that's probably what I learned more than anything, that rather than listening and trying to fix, I was more so just wanting to be, Jen, my wife was more so just wanting to be heard, and to have someone be there for her, not wanting to create solutions, which is a good lesson for someone that is so attuned to wanting to fix problems that I think
Yeah.
of problems rather than that's just life.
Look, I mean, that's probably one of the best tips I reckon we've got on this podcast, just to listen,
Yeah,
because men are innately problem solvers. So when they hear something and the wife or the partner will say this or that, a typical male response is, "Leave it with me, I'll
yeah,
sort it out. She'll be right. I'll fix it up.
yeah,
Don't worry about it." All right, and so we'll just go out and fix and solve the problem. Whereas they don't actually want that. They want to be heard, listened, and appreciated. So I think, mate, that is such phenomenal advice, because I catch myself all the time. I've come home from a hard day at work. I come home, I want to spend time with my son, and then that's a little bit energy draining in itself as well. Obviously, worrying he's not hitting his head, bumping this, doing that, and so it's a little bit chaotic at times. So I'm exhausted when he goes down. We've had dinner. I just want to chill out, but obviously I don't. So I don't listen to my wife all the time. So I really appreciate that advice, because I'm selfish in these podcasts. Like I want to take some advice from myself so I can be a better husband, better partner, and a better dad.
Yeah, it's so true. It's really funny that you mentioned that, because that's exactly how mine works. I'm literally just just try to solve problems, and I think a lot of people who have that entrepreneurial, gift in is that's how they approach it. So what you said is literally conversations I've had where it's like, oh, you don't feel good, just like go to the gym or just eat this and just do this, and my wife is all like crying, going, I'm just
yeah,
so exhausted, and
yeah,
she just really just wanted to be heard, which
yeah,
I think is fantastic advice. Man, so you've gone through this journey. You've had 7 years. You've built, these businesses, and you've learned, I guess, how to take care of yourself. How would you rate your life now that the kids are a bit older, with just the balance of life that you structured whilst you juggle all these things? Now that they're not infants, they're a bit older.
yeah. So the kids are 3 and 7. I definitely feel that there's a turning point when they get to school, like actual school, which is effectively, well, in Queensland, it's like 5.5, depending on what period you cross over to. So call it 6. I feel once they're at school and they've got a level of dependency where they feel like they've got their friends and they've got their community and they go to this thing and there's a repetition cycle, it becomes very much a lot easier, and they've got their after school activities. I think personally, for a dad like me, and I'm sure you guys, because you're into fitness and activities and adventures and stuff like that, it almost becomes like you start to become more entrenched in their life. It is very hard at the start where mum is everything. Like their
Mm,
mum feeds them, is there for them the most. You obviously get a bit of a look in, but it is very structured around the mum and baby relationship. And then all of a sudden, roles turn and there's more sports, there's more birthdays that you get to go to, and there's all these extracurricular things that you start to be involved in, which I've found is probably one of the most rewarding parts of the process, because just because you get more involvement, and I feel that more involvement probably leads to more a level of fulfillment
mhm.
within the process of being a dad. Because like I said before, like the first time around, there was a period where I just literally I didn't do it right, and I felt like an ATM. I felt like I was just coming and going, and like we need money for this, and I'd be like, oh cool, and I'm back to work and missing out on all these things, and it was really difficult to find that balance. Whereas now I feel the balance is being formed in the aspect of being able to almost build things that work cohesively with you and them. Like, for example, on Mondays, I pick up my son Ellis, and we both go to jiu-jitsu at Combat, our gym. And so he does the kids class, and then I've got another 6 dads. There's not even an actual official class, but because 6 other dads are there, we all train at the exact same time the kids do. So you're able to build mechanisms to get to enjoy your kids more as they seem to get older, which is very hard when they can't do anything when they're so young. And that builds like a natural bond where they get to see you training with other people, and they realize, oh, my dad does this and I do this too. So they want to keep progressing and you want to keep progressing with them. They learn life lessons of, oh, my dad lost that, but he's still happy in giving another person 5. I don't have to win everything. I get to see that. So I found that aspect of balance, being able to slowly build connections with the kids through those things has really helped, because when they're really young, it's hard to do that. So that's definitely been a massive positive.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Now, so obviously, just keeping close to your time schedule. Now, we want to obviously be very, very valuable of your time. We obviously don't want to take too much of it. I know you have a lot of investors meetings and important things to get to today. I want to just touch on something you just said there. You mentioned a lot of times throughout this conversation about mechanisms. It's spoken like a true entrepreneur, a true investor. To shortcut any life or shortcut life decisions or a business decision, you need mechanisms that are repeatable and scalable. And if you're going to shortcut dad life and shortcut being an amazing dad, you need to find systems and mechanisms that work for you, that allow you to do the things in the life that you want to do and be the dad that you want to be. So I love that. So for any dad that's listening, what are the things that you can, like, I suppose, take home homework from this episode? What are the things that you can do in your life right now where you can create a system in place so you do it the same every single time, and therefore you have a scalable approach to how you approach specific tasks in your life as a dad? That's awesome. So I really, really appreciate that. Brenda, do you have anything else to add to that?
Mate, I think that this is perfect timing to end because the sun's coming up. You've seen, you and me, Ken, we are getting blasted with sunlight right now. So roosters are about to crow here in WA. But Sel, that was awesome, man. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, and just hopefully people took a lot away. I think it was good, really instructive. And mate, thanks for being on.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Man, I can't wait to see you down at Burley Heads real soon.
Yeah, man. Look forward to having you over.
Thanks.
100%.
Thanks,
Take
mate.
care, bro. See you, dude. Bye.
See you guys.
Just real briefly, so